Ellen White Reconsidered, a series of presentations for people with questions about Ellen White's writings. Today's topic is, I'm just wondering, did the critic somehow feel abused? Welcome. Another short video today. I just had a question that came to my mind. It's because recently we have acquired another doggie. We have the doggie that was left to us when our daughter went off to college. She's getting older. We have a younger doggie that comes from our son who is working and needs some help. And we have another doggie that he acquired. And this third doggie has some phobias, some strange things. It doesn't take much to scare her. I can be walking with her and crinkle a leaf, and she goes into panic mode. If she's in the room, and I'm walking into the room and I look at her, or I try to pet her, she cowers and sometimes makes a mess that I have to clean up. And so it's pretty obvious that somewhere in her past, she has been cued to abuse by whoever possessed her at the time. And I have tried my best to try to reassure her. I will talk to her kindly and calmly and warmly. I will try to pet her, even when I try to pet her normally. If she's in a mood where she's ready to jump, it's not much I can do. And so it made me start to wonder about other relationships, and in the realm of understanding Ellen White and her critics, if perhaps there isn't some similar situation for those who see her in a certain way. I am not abusing the dog in any way, but she sees me as an abuser. She sees me as scary and something to be afraid of, and it's hard to imagine. And in her saner moments, she's friendly and loving and kind and a normal dog. But when she's cued into those feelings and she's on high alert, she's ready to look at things differently. And I wonder if it isn't possible that for some of our critics, they haven't had some experience that I never had. When it comes to Ellen White, where it was she used in some way that they felt abused. And I think from some of the videos I've seen on Peter Dixon's channel, that a number of people feel like they have been abused. And that doesn't really reflect necessarily on the source of what they consider to be abuse, which they think is Ellen White. Because I come to her and I don't feel abused. I feel that this is a person who cares deeply about other people, was engaged with people. That's why I went on Peter Dixon's channel once, was because he was talking about this strange anomaly in his thinking about how she was so much appreciated when she was in Australia because she did kind things for people, her neighbors, and took care of people and sent money to help somebody put up a fence and taking care of different things within the community. And there were articles that were written of her. Same thing is true when she was in California. And undoubtedly, there were people that saw her in the same way when she was in Battle Creek and in other places that she lived, because she was a caring person. And her grandchildren saw her as a caring person, and they were caring people as they invited people into the Elms Haven, and they would show people around. And you could see the warmth of those people who had had such a formative uh, experience with their grandmother and how she treated them. So that's just a question that I have. I didn't have that experience. My mom was very much impressed by Ellen White when I was a child, and I had that in the back of my mind all those years. But when I started to read about her, somebody asked what was a person's favorite book, and I suggested that, of course, Desire of Ages was one of my favorites. When I read it in college, I couldn't put it down. I just had to spend more and more time with it. But the other one was in recounting her early experience and how she was so conscientious and how that things affected her in that way, and how much she loved Jesus and how much she wanted to share her faith. When I learned the gospel, I would ask people as a young person if they would like to hear the gospel presentation. And I remember sitting in the dormitory at Forest Lake Academy during camp meetings, sharing it with one person. And in a bus with one of my schoolmates down at Greater Miami Academy, and different times that I have shared it with other people because I love Jesus and I want them to love him too. And why I have shared with other people one of my favorite little books. And this isn't written by Ellen White, but this is about Jesus, the man Jesus. And I've bought several copies of this used so that I could share with people, young people, that hopefully they could spend the time to read it and come to know Jesus as I did as a young person. And to share what I know about the Desire of Ages and how that Ellen White wrote so much about Jesus in that book, which was her third run at the life of Christ. She wrote about the life of Christ in 1858 in the first great controversy that we call Spiritual Gifts Volume 1. It was Spiritual Gifts without a volume when it was first written. And then rewrote The Spirit of Prophecy, Volumes 2 and 3 on the life of Christ, plus all of the articles intervening in that time. And then when Desire of Ages was compiled from the different sources, all of her letters and manuscripts and the writing that she was writing while she was helping people in Australia, it was the best of Ellen White's writings. Well, except for the little bit that went into Ministry of Healing. Quite a bit went into Ministry of Healing. That's also on the life of Christ and his ministry. We see the beauty of the life of Christ. And that was what she said when she was a young person. I longed to tell the story of Jesus' love. That was my experience with her. Although I knew that she was a straight shooter on a number of things, she was very clear on Sabbath observance. And that was something that was important in our home. She saw some things about properly dressing so that you're warm and that you're not wasteful with means and that you are modest. All of those things. That all makes good sense. So I saw those things too. But the life and the vigor and of her writing was Jesus. And that's my experience. And Mom never said, you need to read this or you need to do that because Sister White said this. She never said that. So I didn't have that negative experience. Maybe some of the critics have had that. Maybe that's a problem. And maybe like our little puppy dog, Sky, who's about 3 years old now, they jump when people talk about Ellen White. And they have been conditioned by somebody, not Ellen White herself, but maybe somebody using Ellen White, to feel abused in some way. Well, that's just a question. It's just a thought. Maybe you can respond in the comments and let me know if that's kind of how you felt about her. I didn't. And that's why I am wholeheartedly engaged in this series about Ellen White Reconsidered. That maybe those who have been shell-shocked, those who have been conditioned to see her in a negative light, can come around and read some of the beautiful pages of Desire of Ages and Ministry of Healing, Steps to Christ, her own experience and how that she came to know Jesus, and recognize that God can use her for their lives in a positive way. Those are my thoughts today. Thanks for joining. God bless.